Right. Hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all out fishing at some point this weekend. And you bag a few. Now, I've just put this post on because I just really wanted to let you know how this is going on. More for those that have it off me, the couple of mates that have it. Now, I've tried to make it as natural as possible, but also so it will have a little bit it will be alright out of freezer a while. Now, this is 6 days of being out of freezer, and it's fine. If anything, it smells better now than it did when it was originally made. It's cured really nicely. So 6 days pretty much tells me that that's pretty much going to be all right. It's now I've had a few message me about what's the. You may be able to see them better if I bust it open. I've had a few ask me what those little white specks are in it. Now, it's a natural, and it's a natural that you don't hear much about nowadays, and it's a natural called Joker. Now, it ain't been used for years. I ain't heard no one mention it for absolutely years. So I managed to get a bit of it off a guy that I know that collects all his own stuff. So he's had this a while, so I got it off him, really just for this paste. Now, so this paste is a bloodworm Joker, but it's got a lot of krill in it as well. Now, you can see on that, you can probably see them better on there. Just a little white flecks that look like maggots, round about, little maggots, this round here. Here, look. Now, if you bust it open, there's absolutely loads of them in it. So it'll go on up lovely with that, you know. And I tell you what, honestly, I can't wait to try for barbel. I'm not even thinking cartweight. I'm thinking barbel. I will be honest with you. And chub, I think it will absolutely do really well with them two fish. Now, it smells really, really strong of krill. Now, that's obviously, it's got a lot of krill in it. Bloodworm ain't really got that much of smell to our noses, but to a carp, believe me, a carp will pick it up no problem. So that's the paste. Now, I'm going to leave it in fridge, and I'm going to leave it, let it keep going until it's probably about 12-13 days, and if it's still all right, then as far as I'm concerned, it's a shelf life. Now, I always freeze my pellet because I like it to be fresh as anything on the day that I go. So we've got the smaller ones there that are 5mm pellets, and then we've got the 10mm 10mm ones. Now, they've actually been glugged, these. I've put some glug on them, so when I do take them out of the freezer to dry them out, then they're gonna soak that glug in even more. I mean, they're absolutely covered in bloodworm now. Attraction in them wise is unbelievable. They're covered in bloodworm. So it's been a dear bait to make, but I'm thinking used in small quantities, I think it could be deadly. Like that on an air, I think it will do really, really well. So we're going to give that a try. Now, I've been in touch with Bailiff down on Ecclesfield, and because there was a sign on gate and it said no bloodworm, no Joker. So I kind of got me thinking, does he mean... it's an old sign, it's been there since I was a kid. I can remember it when I was a kid, that sign. It really is part of history of that pond. I'm glad they haven't took it down, to be honest with you. Now, I messaged him and said to him, is bloodworm allowed on the actual on pond, because it says on rules that it's on that board that Joker and bloodworm aren't allowed. And he says it's an old sign, and just yeah, it is allowed. You're fine to use it. It's just in olden days they used to turn up with loads of it, and it did really well down there. Now, I remember them old days, and I can remember people moaning about it to do with, really, it was to do with cost. It was really to do with the cost. And now it were expensive to buy back then. Bloodworm were expensive to buy, and it were very, very hard to get as well. It were not all tackle shops sell it, and it were very hard to get. But it were deadly. It were absolutely deadly. But it were expensive, and like I say, for those that were struggling money wise and that back in them days, it were hard times. It kind of it give the people with a bit more money more chance of winning every single match on Joker and Bloodworm. So they banned it. Now, I'm not sure if that's the reason they banned it down in Ecclesfield, but it's definitely the reason they banned it on a lot of places for the price of it. And again, anglers with a bit more money, more chance of winning. Now, you're not going to get a better, and I mean it when I say it, you are not going to get a better bloodworm bait than this. It is absolutely loads of the stuff in it, and I mean loads of it. They pretty much hit the jackpot whichever fish falls on this as I feed it. So all I will do is I will feed small pieces of it and just chuck small bits in at paste as well as actual boiler, chopped boiler. Majority of boiler will be getting crumbed up, but like I said, they're spawning down there at the minute, so leave them be for the time being, and then we will hit them. Now it's what I like to do as well with it smells really nice, and I think it will be a definite shelfer, to be honest with you. It would have gone off by now or started to smell, so you can see the white in it there. Now that's Joker that's in it, so it's a really high food value paste. I think it'll do well, but I definitely think it'll do really well on rivers. 100% on that as well. I just know it is. I know it's going to be deadly for barbel, absolutely deadly. So it will be getting a try for that, and it will also be getting a pop down on Ecclesfield to see how we go on. But I've got a lot of this rolled in boilie wise. I mean, you could, if you wanted to. All you'd have to do is, if you didn't want to fish, you wanted it to be a slightly harder, have a few slightly harder hook baits. It's quite simple, and that is just break them off like that, or even smaller, and drop them into boiling water, and they'll float. They'll come up to the surface when they're done. Take them out, dry them off, and there you go. You've got your hook baits. But they're I don't think there's no need to do that at all. It's tough enough to withstand a decent cast, and it's a nice. It's not going to get really no drier than it is now, to be perfectly honest with you, unless you left lid off it. Then it would dry out a bit more. But it's not going to really get any more changes to it than what it's got at the minute. It's bang on, looks bang on. So I'm well happy with that. So that'll be getting tried soon. It's coming up. I'm just waiting for him to finish spawning, and then I'm on it. But I will be honest with you, I'm in no rush to get out. I've said it before. I will be honest with you, I'm more bothered about autumn than I am summer and spring. Spring and summer to me are about fly fishing on rivers and surface fishing on canal with chum mixers. I'm not one for sat-hearting. Really, all your chances are going to come just before first light, up to about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, probably 10 o'clock, and then it's going to be for the day. All they're going to do is just going to come up in surfaces and just sit under water like they do every summer. And then as that light drops, they'll drop down and they'll start feeding. It's the reason that most of the time, if I'm fishing a place, I'll drop down there in the morning and I'm off there for 10 o'clock, and then I'll get back down at tea time and I'll fling rods back out and fish it through night and then get back. To me, it's best way of fishing. It's pointless sat on a bank for not all day, unless you want to get away from something. And to be honest with you, I've got everything I've got around me I'm happy with, so I don't need to get away from anything. But I understand those that do, you know what I mean? If you want to break and all that, you've been working hard and everything like that. But I do the same. It's to me, I would much rather get them feeding on a regular basis on one spot and then hit that spot. So that's where we're at with that. I definitely think it's going to be a shelf life paste, and that's 110% on that. It would have gone off by now. They normally go off after a while. Now, somebody were asking me about really small hook baits. What's the smallest hook bait I do? Now, the thing you could do is you could get some of this paste and then roll it, and then pretty much do little bits like that. Just boil them till they float. Probably about a minute that would need. And then when it comes up to the surface, you've got a lovely little bit. Now you would only need to do probably, I don't know, probably about 100 or so of them, just a small tub of them, and probably a quarter of paste. Take a quarter of paste out and just boil them into small bits like that, and it'd be ideal to fish on a roach pull. Now, so that would then put this paste into the thing of it would last you absolutely ages if you were going to do that, and you were going to feed the pellet that I do, or the crumb, which I would advise the crumb, to be perfectly honest with you. But the pellet will save you from having to boil it and all that. All you've got to do then is just get a pellet out of the bags and stick a nut through side of it, and then just drop it in with your pole or on your float. Like, all this is designed for me not for me pole fishing, for other guys, but it's designed for me to fish it on a sunken float. Everything I'm doing is designed for me to be fishing on a sunken float. On the canals that I fish, Sheffield Canal, and also on the other two ponds that I'll be fishing, they will be fished on one rod alone, and that will be on a float. Unless it looks like the fish are having it big time, and I start missing a few of them bites with striking. I start missing a few. Even if I have 5 fish but I miss 7 or 8, then straight away it's over to a bolt rig and a bottom bait on, and a nice 4-ounce lead. So when you lift it up, they're gonna bang and head's gonna go, and then off they go. But I think it's definitely going to do well, and I'm really, really happy where it's come out. Now the secret ingredient here, the Joker, it's something that I didn't mention, because the guy that I got it off, he only gets a bit of it, so I didn't want to mention that, because I didn't want people asking me over it, expecting it. Now, I can't promise you that I'm going to have that Joker again, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's not a cheap additive to get, but a lot of the stuff that I'm getting now is I'm harvesting myself. What I've been doing is I've been putting some traps down for crayfish, and crayfish that I'm going to get. I'm going to make a crab and crayfish bait for this autumn. It's going to be made with crab meat and pure, and the actual crayfish I'm going to get them. I'll kill them humanely, and then I'm going to put them into fast. I'm going to kill them fast, and then they're going to be put into an oven, dried out, and then that meat is going to be mixed up into a paste, and then that will be frozen and took out and added as I need it, bit by bit, to the baits. So yeah, I'm definitely, the crab and crayfish baits coming very, very soon, 100% on that. Now the crab, I'm more than likely going to be using crab meat for it. But if I do actually have to go over to a company for the crab, it more than likely will be RG baits, and it will be their Arctic crab I use. But to be perfectly honest with you, it's in all my baits I like to use my own stuff, so it's going to be crab meat out of a tin, and I think that's going to be far more appealing to fish. It's natural crab meat that's pretty much either in oil or brine. But it will be in brine when I use it, because I do like that a little bit of saltiness, and it saves me having to add salt to bait. So yeah, definitely one to watch out for this autumn is the crab and the krill and crab. That's going to be a very nice bait. Now you already do a crayfish bait that contains large pieces of actual crayfish. Now I don't know if I've actually shown you that before, so hang on one second. Right then, so this is the actual crayfish that I actually use in my mixers. Now it's not a cheap, by no means it's not a cheap additive at all. It is quite expensive actually to use. Now I have it in 2 forms. I have it in all form like that, which I do break them up, but not very small. I do like chunks in there that are going to crunch. I think when a carp's feeding and something crunches from the in, don't forget they've got a seal around them, which is the boilie skin is going to seal it in. So the interior, it takes a fair bit of time for it to get through to the core a bit. So it's going to have pieces in like that, and the crunchy. And now they are all pieces of crayfish. Now, like I said, I have got crayfish meat as well. So it's more than likely it's going to be crab, crayfish and shrimp. Now, because I've got the same in shrimp form. Now, these are another thing that I was doing at one point, and I will never understand why people did not get onto them. It was absolutely devastating using it in a PVA stick along with a little bit of bloodworm ground bait. It was deadly. It's what I used last year on treating, and I did really, really well on it. It's all it was is a little PVA stick. Smash these up till they've got little bits of them. Smash them up. Put them into. I put them into an oil, and the oil then got mixed in with them. I mixed ground bait in with that, bloodworm ground bait in with that. I made a small PVA stick, and out it went with a few boilers round it. And every single time I watched a fish from up a tree, the yuck bait was the first to go. And the actual fish, while I was playing the fish come back into the swim, and they took the actual stick. They absolutely love the stuff. So that's the kind of quality that's going into the bait that I do. It ain't no cheap shit. It's really, really nice quality ingredients that are in it. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a winner. So watch out for the krill, shrimp and crayfish, or I've got to come up with a name for it yet, but watch out for that one.